My day's over, and this is the first of the video I'm doing for you. That's the fender for the front end on this machine. Tis painted. That is the bar that holds the flap on the bottom edge of the fender. And I'm sure you can see in the picture, there's some cancer in there. There's some holes. This thing was made in the 60s. I ain't too worried about it. The original plan when we were working on it almost a year ago, was we were going to trim 2 inches or so off the bottom and not have to worry about that spot. But yeah, it is what it is. It's got the bad spot because it's backed up with a piece. It's 1/4 by 2, I think, 3/16 by 2 on the inside. It's tight at the bottom, but there's a gap at the top. So when we get it done, that gap's going to get filled full of silicone so crap doesn't get in there again. But I just finished painting them. So all that bar does is help sandwich the rubber strip on for a flap. And this actually had a plastic strip. Some of you have probably seen it when I've been tripping over it in here. That's the plastic strip. I can find other uses for that piece of plastic. My problem with it on here is it's not quite flexible enough. Explain why I had to straighten these up before I could paint them. These are the braces for that fender. And one of them was tweaked pretty good. They bolt on. I just hit the wrong button on my phone, but it's still working. We're good. There we go. They bolt on right there. And go that way. And that fender, I don't know why they made it the way they did. It's got hinges at the top. So, okay, I mean, they really don't need to hinge because you're not going to hinge it, but the hinge is going right there with the cap screws. And there's an edge on it that tucks under. Get my hand in, just tucks under the edge of this so that mud doesn't get thrown over the top of it. And no, haven't got that. I got all this blown out this morning. I was planning on painting it. There was a whole bunch of crap tucked in there. Well, look at the floor. Here, I'll move you quick. Just look at the floor. Most of what's on the floor right here, came out all in there. I actually think I have enough paint left to finish this too. There's 5 cans left. She picked up 11 the other day, and I started with 1. So, well, that's most of it. And hey Bruce, there's those stops I was telling you about. Been chatting with Bruce a little bit. He was asking questions. Makes it right there. I mean, they actually put it on nice and square. Usually you see something like that and it's cockeyed, or it's gotten bent and they don't line up right. And something we were looking at, the inside of that fender kind of shows where it either got wore on or it was just mud that was stuck to the tires doing it. I don't know which. But both of these stops hit just about as flat as can be. And that's the steering cylinder mount at this end. I'm not overly fond of the way they did it, but it works. And the other end of it's right there. I mean, they did brace it good. They're, for where they're at, they're braced all right. Of course, I'm really not fond of the other buggy. But they ground out some here to make clearance for the cylinder when it's all the way around here. And there's said cylinder. Chrome on it's not the best, but once it's on here and it's working, all I plan on doing is cleaning it up and changing lots of hydraulic stuff, lots of lines. And they use press-in fittings, and I'm still debating, do we break those fittings off and knock them out, put screw-ins in? I mean, lots of stuff has press-ins, but my problem with the press-in fitting, if something happens and it's plugged up, you're screwed. So I am seriously thinking about just knocking them out. That one's on the front side, and this other one's here on the back side. Not that big a deal. A couple of hits with a hammer, and whatever's left, Hopefully they drilled a big enough hole through to drive it through, and then you're done. On the other buggy, they use a truck hub setup pretty much the same as this one is. The yoke isn't as thick from here to here. The whole yoke sets up higher. And rather than having it set up with, this has just got a hollow truck spindle inside it. I'm not even sure how they got it. Well, there it is. They got a flange on it that's welded in there. You know, goes like that. On the other one, the axle shaft actually sticks out up here. I'm not sure how it works inside. I've never had it apart. I know how this one is, but it sticks up here. But this whole hub sets farther down in the frame, and the hydraulic cylinder on it is up off the frame right here. So it goes from here to about here. Keep in mind that'd be lower, and they just have an arm clamped on to the shaft here to come out to it, and it works. I was concerned about it when we got it. It's like, man, I can see that twisting off, but hell, that buggy's been running just about continuously since it was built in the early 60s, and I haven't had any trouble with it. Like anything else, keep them greased. That's why we put a grease zerk on the front of this one. So far, we've got everything figured out, I think, as far as that part. I'm assuming that maybe the cylinder opens up all the way to the stop. I don't know, because we never had it running before. It was dead when we got it. But it looks to be roughly correct. And going this way, maybe. I ain't put a tape measure on it to see. May not. It almost looks like it might be a little bit short for that cylinder to fit in when it's closed up. That's what we got a tape measure for, right? So, a little over 28 inches center to center. Actually, assuming this cylinder is out a little bit, that's gonna be real close. It's out about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. By the mark on it, it's out almost 1.5 inches. And that's 29.5. So, hey, that should be right there. And I don't know if you can tell the angle. Like I said, Bruce and I were chatting about it, and he was asking how they turn. So there's your angle. And if I stand over here, and that's looking perpendicular to the frame. So it's 45, maybe a little better than that. That's enough. You get too much, you flip them over. I don't want to be one to do that. So anyway, I'm going to call it your video for today. My video, whatever. And I'm going to go in. Didn't get a whole lot done today, but look at that. There's no more blocks in the way. Some of the floor got cleaned up. I don't want to clean it too much because right now that's dust and overspray. And now I've had people go totally bonkers on me. Oh my God, you don't clean the shop floor before you paint? No, I don't want it cleaned before I paint. I want a layer of dust on the floor. Because that layer of dust on the floor, the paint doesn't stick to the floor. And I'm not blasting at the floor. I'm painting above it. So I'm not stirring the dust up when I paint, whether I'm using the rattle can or I'm using the gun. I mean, this is about as close to the floor as we get when we paint. Usually in here, if it's in here getting painted, it's on top of the sawhorses. And I believe that's 34 inches if I remember right. So we're not at the floor. Makes it a lot nicer to clean up when you're done. And I'm still trying to figure out radiator. I went out and looked at the cotton picker again. I just don't think I can weasel it in where I want. So I'm thinking maybe tomorrow I'll get some of this junk off of here. Get that radiator out. That's the one that come in it. It's underneath there. Check and see what kind of shape it's in. Maybe put a little pressure to it. See if we find any leakies. Go from there. And then I don't have to knock off the mounting tabs for it. And I think that leaves me room for a condenser and evaporator, whichever one it is. I don't know, I get mixed up once in a while. My brain ain't working today. I've been huffing too much. So I think we'll make it work. Now it's just a matter of, I still got to get the engine mounts and all that stuff in here and cleaned up and painted and then remade. And I'll remake them first before we paint them, I hope. And get an engine out of a truck and see if we can make it work. Unless somebody comes along and gives me another engine and transmission. And there's over 11 minutes. That's enough for you to watch. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I'll stick around and see what we ended up doing.